Hi, I'm Paul Kirch, host and founder of Boss Academy, and we're really grateful you're here. Now, we're a community of like-minded professionals who are on a mission to make a difference. We're purpose-driven. We're focused on leaving the world a better place through our own mission. And together, we support each other on that journey. And if you're a part of this and you want to join, today your enriched journey is going to begin because we provide the resources, the tools, the collaboration, and the community to bring you to new heights, boost your confidence, and give you the tools and the opportunities to succeed in ways you can't on your own. And today, we're bringing you a special workshop series that I know you're going to appreciate. I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors who make these events possible. Edmanity, the breakthrough system to marketing success like nothing else. The most powerful marketing and branding assessment tool available in the industry. Check them out at edmanity.com. The Merrill Institute for Nonverbal Intelligence, understanding body language and nonverbal intelligence training that was formed to teach others the skills to communicate skillfully and effectively with those around them. Visit themerrillinstitute.com. Michelle Lee Coaching, increase sales up to 300%, close deals faster, build stronger and more meaningful relationships with a proven system, state-of-the-art technology, and all the training you need to exponentially grow your business. Visit my.bankcode.com/Boss Academy. And websites by Celliance. Output driven, outcome based. Remember, one size fits none. We leverage ROI-based digital marketing and B2B sales to build a website that's going to help you transform your business. Visit Celliance.com. Check out our amazing member benefits at bossacademy.com, the last boss you'll ever need. Today, we're super excited to welcome Cameron Atlas, world-renowned keynote speaker and coach. Now, Cameron delivers experiential keynotes, blending live music on stage with insights on high performance, leadership, creativity, and innovation. His unique approach transforms audiences and empowers them to become more than they ever thought was possible. Cameron is on a mission to transform lives through his words, actions, and music, and coaching. When he's not on stage, Cameron enjoys private coaching founders, executives, and family offices, helping them build high-performance teams. He's also a National Geographic Explorer, speaker resource for YPO, TEDx speaker, and proud uncle of 4 remarkable kids. So I encourage you, let's welcome Cameron Atlas.
Appreciate the claps. Appreciate the claps. We're going to have a great time today.
Your hair's longer, Cameron.
It is much longer than... I went full bald for a while and thought that was the only option out for me, but I think I've still got a few years left in me yet. It's thinning out at the top here, but... I think I'm going to utilize it while I can. So hey, it's great to be here, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and share some insights on performance, some things that I've learned over the last decade or two, and how I've passed them on to clients as well. One of the things that I think we've all experienced over these last few years is change, and we experienced it in different ways. Some of us experienced it maybe in a very challenging way, others where it's maybe been good, and then maybe there's some middle ground as well. I remember back to maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, hearing somebody say it's not about getting rid of the problems, it's about becoming the person you need to be to deal with the problems as they arise. And so that for me is what we're about today, is about helping you to become the person you need to be to deal with the problems as they arise, no matter how grand they become, and no matter what you're going through now, no matter what you're going through in say 3, 5, 10 years time. And these are things that have helped me personally, continue to help me personally, but more importantly, have continued to help my clients privately, achieve some pretty extraordinary results. So, I think back to 2018. I was invited to give the closing talk at Italy's largest TEDx event, and I was in Mexico City at the time, and I was super excited for one. I was there writing some music. I had a beautiful grand piano in the apartment on the 21st floor. Side note, I have no idea what to do when an earthquake hits when you're on the 21st floor. Like, this earthquake came one day. I'd never experienced anything like it. The thing started shaking off the walls. I'm Googling like what to do in an earthquake when you're on the 21st floor. It's like on the ground, I get a feel for it. But apparently, you're actually meant to stay in the building, because if you go out, then there's potential that stuff has fallen down. Anyway, I digress. That's important to know, though, in case, there'll be maybe some stage in the future you go, that one thing that I got from that talk, there wasn't anything about the performance, but that one thing about the earthquake has just saved my life. So I was there. The talk was going to be in May, and I was planning out. The talk I wanted to give was very much about this surprising power of curiosity, and how, when we blend that with technology, it can really speed up and magnify the impact that we make in the world. And with that, I wanted to be able to showcase how it's done, rather than just talking about it and giving, some examples. And so I went about creating this music video for one of the songs that I wrote when I was in Argentina living. And we ended up getting people from 40 different countries around the world involved. About 80, 90 people were in this video. And I gave them an option, so they had to record their audio, they had to record their video, and in their part of the world. All strangers. I said, you've got a choice. You can either record it inside or go and out to a landmark or somewhere in your country and demonstrate where you are in the world. And the first few came through, and then the next few came through, and they were all outside. It was amazing, like in front of castles and rivers and ruins and all these other crazy locations. And then I realized I had a massive problem. I had my piano inside, and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to get a piano outside to be able to be in this video? And I contemplated it. Now I only had 2 weeks before I was going to be flying to Denver in Colorado, and then I was off to Europe. I was staying in a place in Budapest to do the final rehearsal for a month on a piano there. And little side note, little magical fact, the piano there was like 150 years old. And the person, when I went and rented it, she said, yeah, when we bought it, we found old money stuffed down the backside of it. I thought, what? Like, just the stories, thinking about the stories that piano would be able to share if it was alive and it could talk. 'Cause that's been through world wars, right? And in that part of the world. And so before I went there, I'm in Mexico City in my apartment thinking, okay, the way I rationed it with myself is that I rationalized with myself, I won't be in the video itself. I'll be performing the song live on stage anyway, so it doesn't really matter. As long as everyone else is on the backdrop, that was what was going to be. Everyone was going to be on the video while I performed the song live on stage. So we're like having this collaboration experience. And then a couple mornings later, I thought, I was just lying there in the bed. I woke up. I thought, what if I could do it in this video? Like take a grand piano out to some crazy location. And I just started playing around with it, thinking, well, okay, what would I need? I'd need a piano, for one. I'd need a piano moving company. I'd need a videographer. I'd need a drone pilot. I'd need a photographer. I'd need a location to be able to film it at somewhere and to be able to get some kind of permits, and that all had to be done in a very short space of time. But as I started piecing it together, I thought, well, I've got to at least give it a go. I've got to at least give it a go to see if I can make it happen. Within 24 hours, I had the piano, I had the piano moving company, I had the videographer, the drone pilot, I had the photographer. All we needed was a location somewhere in Colorado for those couple weeks I was there. Started bringing it around, and then all of a sudden found a place. I don't know if anyone has been here. Maybe type it into the chat box. Garden of the Gods in Colorado. It's this beautiful rock formation that is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And it's even more stunningly beautiful at sunrise. And yeah, been there many times. It's stunning, right? At sunrise, it was April at the time. It's stunningly beautiful. It's freezing cold, but stunningly beautiful. And the sun comes up, the red rocks are revealed because the sun's just hitting on it, and it's just this beautiful color. And I'll actually give you a look because we made that happen. And it was crazy. Because one thing that I realized for myself, I'll just see if I can share my screen here. And let's get that one. So that was the rock formation. And so we took this it'll come up in a sec. There we go. So it was this beautiful filming that we did at sunrise. And again, freezing cold. I had gloves on and a jacket on every time we did a break for the shoot. Like, you're seeing those photos thinking, oh yeah, it looks like nice and warm and beautiful. Nope. And even The videographer, I asked him to bring like a thermos with some hot water in it so that I'd be able to, warm my hands. He brought that, beautiful to drink, but it was it was cold on the outside, so it had nothing to do that I could actually warm my hands up. So yeah, it was tough. Even my skin came away from my fingers while I was playing because it was so freezing cold. But we got the shot. It was stunningly beautiful, and was able to then film that and then bring it to. It does look like Red Rocks, doesn't it, Tom? Yeah, it's similar rock formation, and only about maybe an hour or two away from Red Rocks in Colorado, which is a stunning venue for live music. And so the reason I share this story at the start of this today is that the massive realization that I had is that the biggest thing getting in my way is myself. Always and forever. And that is such an empowering way to see your life, because if you're the biggest thing that's getting in your way, then it doesn't matter what's happening externally to you. I just chatted with someone, a company owner over in the Middle East earlier this morning at 6 a.m. here, and is going through all kinds of challenges over there. And I shared this story with him and said, this is your opportunity to be resourceful. You might not have the resources, but you can be resourceful in this case. And the biggest thing getting in your way is yourself. Yes, there might be massive challenges, but it's how you're responding to it that matters. It's not necessarily what happens, it's how you respond to it that matters, right? And so what I want to take you through is a couple of frameworks today that have worked really well for clients of mine. And when I reflect on what it really takes to perform at a high level and really pursue mastery, the first one that I want to take you through is what it really takes. All right. To me, there are three main things that we need. There is clarity as to what you want, courage to go for it, and commitment to seeing it through. You have those three things, you're pretty good to go, right? If you're clear on what it is that you want to achieve, you've got a very clear vision. If you've got the courage to actually break free from your fears, the limiting patterns of behavior that are holding you back, we'll talk a little about those today. And then the actual commitment to seeing it through, the discipline, the ongoing execution of that over and over and over again, no matter how boring it might, monotonous it may get at different times, those three ingredients, you are cruising. And so what I want to discuss with this framework here is what happens when some of the pieces are missing, okay? So when it comes to, let's say you've got clarity, right? You're clear on what you want and you're courageous, you're just ready to go for it, but you don't have the commitment to seeing things through. What tends to happen is that you end up getting the shiny object syndrome, right? I go, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. All true, potentially, but if you keep being scattered without truly executing and going and deep diving down, then you're never going to generate the results that you could generate if you select the strategy you're going to implement, select the steps you're going to take action on those. Yes, tweak, adapt, evolve as you go, but continue deep diving down. That comes from obviously having the clarity first, but that has to be in there. Otherwise, again, you're going to be all over the place, okay? Next up, courage and commitment. If you don't have the clarity, you're going to be off course. You're going to go off course. And what happens here, what tends to happen, is that you will commit to something longer than you should. And this is a fine line because you want to be executing over and over and over and over again, even when it's monotonous and even when it maybe feels like it's not quite working, but not too far and not too long as to be doing something that's actually detrimental to your success. And this is where, 4 key questions that I get clients to ask over and over again. And this is done within myself as well. We usually do this on a weekly basis, them in their team meetings. The 4 key questions, and there's probably a couple others that I'll add here, but what's worked well, what didn't, what am I going to do about it, and what do I need help with? And if you can ask those 4 questions over and over and over again, it's going to allow you to get really clear on whether something is working, for one, because if you continue showing up to that meeting, whether it's with yourself only or you've got a team, and the answer is the same thing as to what's not working week after week after week after week, that's a problem. And so we've got to fix that. And So with those 4 key questions, a couple others that you could ask there is, what is this moving me towards or away from what I really want? Could be another one to add in there. So let me know if this all makes sense as well. If there's any questions, I might actually add up. And can someone pop those 4 questions? Yeah, if someone wants to write them in, I've got the chat box up now so that I can see you guys there. What's worked well? Another version of that would be, what are the wins? What would I like to celebrate? Would be another version of that. What didn't? What mistakes did I make? This flavor of it, other flavors of it is, what mistakes did I make? What's not working well? Where did I fall short? Where did I lower my standards? And other versions of that. The third is, what am I going to do about it? Other versions of that would be, knowing what I know now, what am I going to do differently? A follow-on from that question can also be, what am I going to do differently? And also, how will that lead to the outcome that I'm actually aiming to achieve here? Because just doing something differently doesn't mean you're going to get the results. And so you've got to have some form of strategy and strategic thinking around how it's actually going to lead to the outcome that you're aiming to achieve. And especially when you're working with teams and with yourself, but especially with teams, this is a beautiful way of performance managing, because it allows you to give the autonomy. As long as they've got the answer that you're satisfied with, you say, yes, I can see how, what worked, what didn't, and what you're actually going to do about it now. Okay, I can see how that could actually allow you to overcome the challenge that you experienced this week. Go forth. And then you come back and see how it went the following week. And if it worked or it started to work, you allow them to have that autonomy. If not, you drill down a little further and ask more detailed questions. Make sense? The final one being, what help do I need? What support do I need? Who do I need to reach out to in order to get the help? And that could be from mentors, it could be from coaches, it could be from books, it could be from seminars, it could be from researching a video online. There's many different ways to get the answer. It could be, what support do I need? I need to hire somebody. I need a new piece of technology to be inserted here. So they're the 4 key questions. Michelle, did you get those? And did someone else get them in terms of typing them up? I can send them across afterwards anyway if nobody got them fully written down. So let's jump on here. The final piece that I want to talk about here is, if we have commitment and clarity without the courage, is you'll end up playing small. You'll be on track. You'll be on track, just like I was on track to delivering the TEDx talk in Rome, and I think it still would have been pretty good. But the next level to that was me realizing I was the greatest thing getting in my own way. And as a result, having the courage to be able to step into that and wonder what was possible. And that's a great thing to ask here, is what I asked that morning. What if it could work? Because if our first frame of reference is, well, there's no way that could happen. That's exactly what it was for me. It's like, yeah, there's nowhere near enough time to get that all sorted. And then just that simple switch across, that simple flick across to, what if it could? And here's the thing, with courage, you can build in, to become more courageous, one of the things that you can build in here is curiosity. Yeah. What I find with curiosity is that it tends to be the bridge between where you are and where it is that you're wanting to be. And in the space of curiosity, you haven't actually made a decision as to what you are going to do yet, just what you could do. What if it could work? What might I do if I was to go forth and take some action in this direction? And what can tend to happen is that you start to solidify why this might actually be a good idea, or not, if it's in the opposite direction. Like, again, coming back to the story that I shared earlier, there's going to be an amazing film crew there filming this video, and there's going to be a beautiful piano, and it's going to be a big audience. And it became I'd be crazy not to do this, or at least not to have a go, right? And so that playing small component, you want to ask yourself, in which areas of my life am I playing smaller in right now? And even if you're playing really big in each of these areas, one of the things that I absolutely believer of is that there is always another level. And that is a beautiful way to live life, is that you've never arrived. I remember one of my mentors saying years ago, what was it? The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you're in for a very big fall. I love that so much, because it's saying, Either you are continuing to grow and evolve, or you're not, and you're going to get left behind at some stage. Yeah. So with this will allow you to generate, there's a few key things that if you have all of these three things in place. I know I've experienced this personally after, Brian, I'm not as well-versed as you, but for me, piano has been my instrument for the last 30 something years. And I've written, a few hundred songs now, and decided to add guitar to that over the last, I did a 500-day period, and it ended up being 2,000 hours over the 500 days. So it was equivalent of 4 hours a day, every day for 500 days. And it was grueling and, intense and all of the above. But I love that now I'm able to deliver talks with the guitar as well as the piano. And so that's where, with these pieces, the clarity component, you've got to have a reason that's much bigger than the problems that you're facing. This is really important to understand. If your purpose is bigger than your problems, then it doesn't matter what comes your way, you're still going to be executing over and over and over again. The moment that your problems are bigger than your purpose, then you're going to be procrastinating. You're going to be struggling with motivation. You're going to be struggling to get things done, struggling to keep and stay disciplined. And having these key pieces in place is going to allow you to continue challenging what's possible, continue stepping up to your next level of excellence, continue to be very, very disciplined and executing on whatever it is that you deem to be most important. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys now. Where in that framework, where have you been getting stuck? Is there, and I'll bring this up, put it into the chat box. Where there, it might be specifically courage or commitment. You might just put that word in, or clarity. Or it could be that you're, some of those key subsections of playing small, shiny objects off course. So if you add them in, let's have a bit of a discussion about it. Also, if there's any questions around that, just let me know. And what's really, really important here, Jade, so I'm playing really small. Great. So now that you understand that, you can utilize this framework. Okay, so if I'm playing small, what I need to build in is the courage. Okay, what's needed in terms of courage? You've got to be looking through, okay, what limiting patterns of behavior there that are resulting in me playing small? Yeah, it could be that I don't believe I'm good enough. It could be that there's imposter syndrome kicking in. It could be that I fear being seen. It could be that I need the external validation in order to feel that I'm worthy of it. There's many different things. There are just a few there. What you want to be understanding, though, is what is the core driver that's bringing about the playing small. The playing small is just a symptom. There's a core mechanism that's playing on underneath the surface that is leading to the symptom being created. And if you can get to the core of it, that allows, the way I see it when I work with clients, the way I see it is that it allows you to create long-term sustainable change rather than short-term transactional change. It's the difference between somebody, for example, health and well-being, right? Somebody who'll create transformational change. And we'll go through another framework in a moment that will help with, if there's well-being stuff, but also on the business side, that'll help you step through this and the steps that are required to do it. But if you don't get to the core of it, it ends up being, I've got to eat better. I've got to exercise more. At the end of the day, there's a couple of things you got to do. You need to eat less than what you expend in terms of energy, and tone up a bit, right? And so, in terms of so I'll read these out a little bit. So we've got a bit off course, and think we're in the midst of a course correction. This is great. Tom, when it comes to the course correction, the more that you can do to tweak versus having to transform, there'll be moments where you have to transform. But if you think about tweaks versus transformations require, imagine like the off course, imagine a ship having to change complete directions. It takes a huge amount of time, energy, resources to be able to make that shift. But if you're shifting 0.5%, 1%, 2% here and there, all of a sudden you're able to continue on your journey. Again, there's going to be times, me included, there's times when transformations are absolutely required. What you ultimately want to be able to be doing is making tweaks more often, though, because the tweaks is what allows you to stay on track and not get too far off course. So So yeah, clarity is always my issue. So Jeff, that would be okay. Is there a challenge that you've got around big picture thinking? Yeah, where maybe you're in the detail and you're very good at executing. This could be an example, but linking that up. So questions are really important there. The quality of questions, and so that's a really important thing for you to be spending time on and building the muscle around, because once you've got the clarity, then you can go and execute. And if you are a detailed person, potentially, then the execution is going to reap even more rewards. Yeah? So, now, it's a pretty big tweak. Great. So what we'll do is we'll continue to jump on, because there's a few things that I want to cover here. Actually, you know what? You want to hear some music? Let's hear some music. I'm gonna play. There's a song that I wrote at the start of 2020, right? And it's called Wild Heart. I'll do a shortened version of it today. And I wrote it when I was in Boulder in Colorado. There's a whole nother story that I've got for you that occurred afterwards, which included me partway through the pandemic getting stuck in Europe and Amsterdam, not being able to board flights and all that kind of stuff. So I was challenged in terms of this wild heart component, but it really is about stepping into the unknown, overcoming the challenges that we face, and knowing that you're going to come out even stronger. And this is our natural state, if you will. So what I'll do is I'll stop. What I might do is I'll stop sharing my screen here. Microphone 2.
I've been down this bumpy road so many times before, trying to become much more than I have ever known. I've earned my stripes, earned my battle scars. I'm learning how to let go of all I've lost. Yeah, I've been growing a little each day. I've made up my mind, gonna leave it all behind. I was born with a wild heart, a wild heart. I've been down here for days and days, wondering what comes next. I realize that I've been compromising on my best. I recognize that all my life's been leading up to now. Pain's prepared me to overcome my fears and all my doubts. Yeah, I've been growing a little each day. I've made up my mind, gonna leave it all behind. I was born with a wild heart, a wild heart, a wild heart, a wild heart, a wild heart. There we go. So,
I'm learning how to let go of all I've lost. To me, is something that I continue to ask myself. There was an experience that I had around the same time I ended up writing a bunch of music there. And there was this one song that I wrote called Worthwhile. And it was this song, I was contemplating my life, my nieces and nephews' lives. I don't have kids of my own, but I've got these young nieces and nephews who are absolutely my world. And, contemplating who they were going to become. Are they going to live a life that they really, really enjoy, really love? What are they going to have to sacrifice. And at the end of the song, there's these four lines, these four questions. I continue to ask myself these questions over and over and over again. And I share them with clients as well. And I go, what have I become? And was it all I really loved? What have I given up? And was it worthwhile? And that fourth one for me is so vital in asking the question of, because the reality is that we in life are experiencing a sea of sacrifices. We are giving things up constantly. And if we're not giving things up, we're giving things up anyway, because then we're not going deep in the things that we really care about. And so learning to let go of the things that you've maybe lost, that haven't worked out, and also sometimes maybe even more challenging is actually letting go of some things that you actually enjoy, but in letting go allows you to deepen your level of mastery in a specific area. I know for me personally, there's been other instruments that I played, like I've got a hang drum, like a hand pan over to the side here that you can't see. There's a drum kit there as well. And for me, I would love to play more of that, but it would take away from my pursuit of mastery with the piano, with the vocals, with guitar. Yeah. And as a result, I don't play much of that. Every now and then it's enjoyable to still do, so you could still do that. But especially in your businesses, when you're aiming to execute on something, to be able to do that extraordinarily well, there is a level of freedom that comes from mastery. There's a level of freedom that comes from the depth of understanding that allows you to play more and more into the unknown, because you know you can handle it. Okay? So let's jump on to, I'm going to take you through another framework very quickly. Any questions that anybody has, I'll just go back up here and see. And if you've got a question as well, oh, thanks, Angela, I appreciate it. Put a cue at maybe a cue at the start of it, so I can make sure that I see that straight away. And awesome, I think we're good. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to get my screen back here to share. Okay, there's a few beliefs I want to go through that I find for me personally are extremely. 4 questions again. Is in the song, Michelle? Is that the questions you were talking about? And
yeah,
thank
those
you.
last 4 you just repeated.
Last 4, yeah.
What have I become?
What have I become? Was it all I really loved? What have I given up? And was it worthwhile? Yeah, those continue to hit home for me. That every now and then there's a song that I write, it's like more than 300 now. Every now and then there's some lyrics in there I go, oh, wow. I surprised myself because there's some kind of challenge going on there. But the ability to be able to ask those questions on a regular basis and actually dedicate some time towards it. For me, the reason I think why that was so powerful is because I knew I was going to be away from my family for a large amount of time. If I went back to Australia, I wouldn't have been allowed to leave during the pandemic, being a citizen there, and not having my green card here yet, which I do now. And so, yeah, it was more than 2 years before I saw them. And so I had to ask myself, okay, this is not ideal at all. Every year I would go back to see them for a long period of time. What am I going to do over this course of the 2-year period that I can look back on and say that was absolutely worthwhile? And so it's not just about doing it when things are going well. It's important when things are not going well. Because if you can, and there's a thing that I call pain stacking. If you can stack the pain that you're experiencing on top of each other to as much as you can withstand, that, because you're going to be experiencing the pain anyway of a situation, a challenge you're going through, might as well stack that, stack other things on top of that and go through the change in those areas as well. I find that to work extremely, extremely well. So let's go through 3 extraordinary empowering beliefs, quickly through these. One I mentioned before is around growth. There is always another level. I'd recommend having these written down and then looking for ways in which you bring that to life on a day-to-day basis. Wow, there is always another level. How did I achieve that next level today? because beliefs on their own mean nothing, but it's the solidification of those beliefs. Resilience. I mentioned this one before. I come out of challenging situations stronger than before. I utilize this one regularly. A great friend of mine, when I was going through a real challenge in late 2020, and she said, you always come out stronger than before, Cam. I said, but you don't understand. Like, there's this going on and this is different. And afterwards, you know what? She's right. And each time now, there's this little voice goes, right, challenging situation comes up. I always come out of these situations stronger than before. What do you got? Yeah. Third one, we went through this before, which is about responsibility. The biggest thing getting in my way is myself, which gives me ultimate responsibility to create the change that I'm looking for. So let's jump on. Now, just curious, how much time do we have, Paul?
Well, we're slated for the hour, but if you go longer, I don't think anybody's going to be offended. We may have some other commitments, but we're really enjoying this, Cameron. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, there's a framework here, and then I definitely want to do some cool thing at the end with the piano. So great. Yeah, Tom, I will get over to the piano shortly and give you an experience there as well. Maybe another song. Definitely an exercise that you'll all be a part of. So Claudia, pain stacking. It's something that no one taught me this or told me this. I think I've just found myself maybe 5 or 6 years ago with a bunch of stuff that I had to work through, and then realized that, wow, if I can, now the important thing here is you've got to make sure that you can handle it, because if it diminishes your ability to execute, that now becomes a problem in terms of pain stacking. It can diminish it to an extent, for a period of time, for a small period of time, but within a certain, you determine how long that is. Maybe it's a few days, a week. You want to be, for that to then be executing in a much grander scale. Yeah, that you are achieving much more than what it is that you had set out to before. So yeah, pain stacking. Yeah, I find it very interesting, and I continue to utilize it personally. That if I'm going to going through a certain level of discomfort, might as well just ramp that up to as much as I can experience, because that means that I'm getting maybe 2, 3, 4 times the change that I would have otherwise. Yeah. So this is a framework that I created a while ago, and I continue to utilize this in my own life and with clients as well. So I'm going to take you through. We'll do it as a fun example of, we're a month into the year. A bunch of people who have created New Year's resolutions for the year. Not my most favorite thing. I'd rather create objectives and then create clear actions and things around them. But let's do this, and it'll be a fun example in the health and well-being space, and then I'll bring it over into business. So first one, certainty of outcome. Let's say husband or wife goes down to their partner in the morning and say, hey, hon, I'm going to get in great shape this year. I'm really excited about it. And the partner says, yeah, you should do it. Now, notice with each of these steps, there's going to be an internal and an external influence. Internal is you, yourself, your beliefs, your values, your thoughts. And external is everything outside of you. A person, your spouse, physical environment it could be, marketing messages, everything outside. Right? Partner says, yeah, you should do it. There's certainty of outcome from self, and there's certainty of outcome from external. Internal and external. On the other hand, comes down to the breakfast table one morning, says, hey, hun, I'm going to get in great shape this year. And the partner says, that's what you said last year. You put on 20 pounds last year. No certainty of outcome from external. The internal becomes even more important then. You've got to have so much belief in self, and if it's not there, you'll believe the external world, and you'll succumb to the pressure, and you go, oh, maybe she's right, maybe he's right. And so certainty, now the ideal situation is you've got both going on. The other example here, trudges down to the breakfast table. Partner says, hey, hun, how about we go to the gym this year and get in great shape? And he or she goes, oh, yeah, all right. And the external certainty is there, but the internal isn't. And what tends to happen with that is that you'll only do what's required, and this will go for your teams as well, and I'll bring that over in a moment. You'll only do what's required when somebody else or something else is there, some external motivation. Now, an easy example with this is with teams, right? You need to be developing teams of people around you in your businesses, or if it's just yourself, then do this within yourself. But you've got to build in the internal accountability. Their ability to be able to hold themselves accountable, take personal responsibility for taking action, so that then it's not required externally. The externally now becomes an added bonus rather than a requirement. Make sense? So, other examples, so certainty of outcome, let's say within a business, and we spoke about this before around the clarity component. If you don't have an understanding as to what it is that you're going to achieve, how can you possibly put a plan around that? And that's straight up pretty straightforward and simple. Same then if you've got teams of people or people that you're working with. If there's no certainty of outcome, to me, clarity is power. And with that clarity, you're able to move forward with confidence, right? Next up, flexibility in your approach. There was a great interview with Bruce Lee, black and white interview, and he talks about being like water. He says, water is formless, it's shapeless, it becomes the cup. So we want to be like water. In this case, person's been going to the gym for a week, let's say, crushing it. Every day, 6 a.m., at the gym, getting it done, loving it. Something blows up at work. Has to go in. It takes all day. Exhausted by the time they go on their way back home, and succumbs to some bad food on the way back. And we'll see you next year, New Year's resolutions. This often happens after, was it a certain percentage? I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's a large number of New Year's resolutions are gone, given up on after 2 weeks. And by a month, it's a very large percentage. So we're already, we're a month in. More than half of the New Year's resolutions are already gone by the time this month is here. And this one, I would say, is a huge component to it, is not having the flexibility in the approach. The reality is, we don't live in a science lab. If we did, this would be we wouldn't need this step at all. In fact, we'd need to eliminate that step to be able to determine exactly what works and what doesn't. But we don't. There are different situations that we're exposed to, different challenges, different people. That's what makes life beautiful as well. And so we've got to accept that, embrace it, and realize that I need to be adaptable to change. Tim Ferriss does, Michelle. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So flexibility in the approach, in this case, let's say he or she's been going to the gym for the 6 days still. Same situation happens at work. But instead, there's a bit of foresight to say, okay, I'm already going to have some meals set so that if something blows up, then I've got something in the freezer and I can just take it out that night and away I go. Alternative could be to find what places could I eat at that has a healthy choice. Another option could be that, well, I'm not going to get a full hour workout done, but I could get 10 minutes done. I could get 15 minutes done. And I could just go for a walk around the block. I know there's a park nearby. I know there's a bench there. Hey, I could do some dips. I could do some raised push-ups. I could do a run around for 5 minutes. So there's multiple things. They're just a few examples in terms of flexibility. This is absolutely vital when it comes to when change is upon us in our businesses. We've got to be able to be flexible in our approach. There was somebody, a mentor years ago, the person with the most behavioral flexibility is the one that controls the situation. So your ability to be able to adapt is your ability to stay focused, to be executing, and where the questions that I mentioned about before, what's working, what's not, what am I going to do about it? That what am I going to do about it is your flexibility in the approach. So what you'll see is as I'm going through each of those questions, as an example, the first framework that I went through, this framework as well, they actually layer on top of each other. It's not like they're completely separate things. They layer on top of each other and allow it to become even more powerful. Because at the end of the day, here's the outcome you want, here's where you are, and this is the road to get here. Think of these that I'm taking you through. I'm giving you a small section of what I go through with clients in performance intensive, for example, are what allows us the building blocks to be able to get there. The key here is that you want to make sure you have multiple ways to solve a problem. When you have multiple ways to solve a problem, then if you only have one way, if it doesn't work, you're out of options and your empowerment goes down through the floor. If you've got multiple options available to you, the power of options, power of alternatives, all of a sudden you're feeling in control still. The same goes when it comes to a sales environment. If you really need this one client and they don't come through, the fear can come through in the conversation and they smell it coming a mile away. They don't know what it is, but they can smell it. They go, there's something just wasn't quite right about that. You've probably experienced that before in a certain sales conversation where they felt a little bit too needy, a little bit too desperate. Often what's happening is that flexibility in the approach isn't there as to how else they're going to get the outcomes that they're shooting for. Okay? Next up, recognition of progress. So, it's been going to the gym for, let's say, 2-3 weeks. Walks past the mirror one morning and looks at themselves and goes, damn, you're looking good. Walks down to the breakfast table. Partner says, wow, hon, have you been working out? I said, well, yes, I have. I've been going to the gym for 2-3 weeks. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm starting to see some amazing results. Yeah, you look fantastic. I feel good too. Thank you. That's a very healthy recognition of progress from internal and external. Alternatives. Walks past the mirror. Walks down to the breakfast table. Partner says, hey, hon, have you been working out? Oh, I've been going for 3 weeks now. I'm not seeing many results. I'm just tired all the time. Oh, you look great though. Oh, yeah, you just have to say that. Right? That flavor of conversation is recognition of progress from external, but it's not recognition of progress from internal. As soon as the external recognition is gone, this is, by the way, this is where social media comes in. It's very concerning for me being in this space around social media and the need for external validation, especially within our youth, but that coming through into the work environment now, is the need for external validation in order to know that I'm doing a good job. And that's come previously in the form of likes, in the form of shares. I need that in order to know that I'm enough versus recognizing internally that I'm doing the work that's required to get me the outcome that I'm shooting for here. Internal recognition leads to external validation switching over to external feedback. It's the same piece of information coming, but you interpret it in a completely different way. External feedback allows you to know, am I on track with this or off track? You need to take that on, because if you're just internal, which is, I'll give you the third example of the health and well-being example, walks past the mirror one morning, goes, oh, wow, damn, walks down to the breakfast table. Husband or wife goes, hun, have you put on weight? Have you been going to the gym? And he goes, what do you mean? I've been going and I've been doing this, I've been doing that. I saw you hacking into that bag of cookies in the other night. There's external feedback coming through there. Now, in that case, maybe it just continues to be blindsided from it. But if you're smart about it, you go, external feedback becomes a mechanism to know whether you're on track or off track. So in a work example, you can think that you're an extraordinary leader. But if everyone else thinks you're a bit of a douchebag, then it's not going to go down too well. Yeah, and people are only going to follow you as long as they have to rather than because they want to. Right? Oh, had to leave, David. I appreciate it. Charming Aussie accent, great hair, and full of guitars. I love it. Okay, can somebody please, I'm going to screenshot that because that's recognition of progress for me right there. I love it. That's so good. So recognition of progress, external, internal. Must have both in place. And this is where one of the areas you may find this challenging is when somebody gives you a compliment and you deflect it rather than saying a heartfelt thank you. Thank you, I really appreciate that. Not thank you, you look good too. Not thank you and then reverting it back across. Thank you, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've been working really hard on this. Yvonne, women do this a lot. It is common. Yes, it is common. Because what can happen in a family environment is that they feel have the need for a period of time to put others first. Yeah. And therefore it can switch it over to being others are more important than me. Not true at all. Yeah. Not that you're more important than everyone else, but at least even, right? That allows you to put certain boundaries in place. It allows you to make sure that you are treating yourself with love and respect. Because otherwise, there's only a certain amount that you can give out before it will end up burning you out. Yeah? And so recognition of progress is that. Now, one of the key exercises to do here is an exercise that I call reference points. And this is the dialogue that you have on a day-to-day basis. I won't go too deep into it today, but at the highest level, it's understanding this is where I was, this is who I am, and this is who I'm becoming next. All right? Look at what I used to do, old pattern of behavior. Look at what I'm doing now. Oh my gosh, look at the growth that I just went through. Look at the workout that I did. Look at the food that I just ate. Look at the calls that I just made, the follow-up calls that I wouldn't have otherwise made. Look how I stayed focused even though I wanted to procrastinate today. Look at the steps that I took on a leadership capacity to performance manage on a much better basis, much more consistent basis. Imagine what that's going to mean by me consistently executing that for another 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Notice future. So who I was, distance yourself, disassociate from yourself, because that's a past version of yourself that is no longer serving you, and it's not going to allow you to get the outcomes that you want. Might have gotten you to where you are, not going to get you to where you want to go. Who I am, acknowledge, associate with that, and then align to the future version of yourself. Cool? The final piece here is the identity actually gets locked in. Guy's been going to the gym for, let's say, 6 months, and all of a sudden, this is who I am now. This isn't what I'm doing anymore. This is just who I am. Of course, I would do that. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. They think they're at level 4, stage 4, but they're actually at stage 3, and they haven't built in enough reference points, enough recognition of progress, so that when an actual challenge comes up, that they still have the identity locked in. And so this has to be an ongoing, every single day for the rest of your life, because the reality is you are building these, what I call reference points, every single day, whether you like it or not. It just comes down to whether you're building them in a conscious and strategic way that's actually designing your life, strategically designing how you'll take action going forward, or it ends up being a bit of hit and miss. Yeah, because the negative self-talk may come in. So, let's, when you, Meredith, so when it comes to that, yes, say thank you, because it's absolutely correct. It's not necessarily the audience's experience. And what you're doing, if you don't acknowledge the compliment, you're actually robbing them of the experience of sharing their gratitude, of actually sharing how it made a difference in their lives. It ends up being about you, right? And I've been guilty of this at times as well. And I work to move on from that. And so switching that across, going, this is an opportunity to say thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And you can absolutely then utilize your feedback, which was external feedback, to say, so what was it that they liked about it, and how could I change things up a little where I would be really happy with my progress and be happy with the external feedback that comes back next time around. And so you can utilize that when you go through those 4 key questions. Let's say you presented what worked, what didn't, what am I going to do differently, and what do I need help with? Cool? So they're the 4. And what I'm going to do now, I think I'll head over to the piano. And I want to do a small exercise in these final few minutes. So, let's go this angle. And you should be able to hear me now. Let's get this where I can play it. And what I want you to do is take out a piece of paper or type this up if you like. And I want you to think about these three questions. what do I really want? The second would be, what am I committed to doing? And the third would be, what am I committed to letting go of? So,
Cameron, can you take off screen share so we can see you at the piano?
of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you see my hands?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. So with that, I'm going to play just a nice piece of piano music. And let's take maybe 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes to answer those three. So what do I really want? And it could be in an area that you haven't really thought too much about if you've already got a lot of clarity. It could be in a lengthened time frame. So for example, it could be a 90-day period. It could be a 12-month period. It could be 3 to 5 years. It could be in that 5 to 50-year range. Whatever you want to focus on. And then what am I committed to doing to bring that to life? And what am I going to let go of that would open up the space for me to create that in my life? So enjoy this. Take some time to dream, to be with yourself, and we'll give it maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Have a think about as well, the first framework that I shared, if there was maybe a piece of playing small, this is an opportunity to really think big, to be curious about what might I want, what could I create that would be extraordinary. And this could be in business, it could be in life, it could be in relationships, it could be your wellness, it could be anything. If you've been going off course, you found that was a challenge for you, what are you going to do to correct that? And it could be things that you need to let go of, or things you need to start doing. And if it was maybe the shiny things for you, that you're getting distracted a little too much, this is an opportunity to then utilize this to really focus in on the key things that you're going to execute and execute for a period of time to really get the results that you're looking for. And also determine what are those things that I'm just going to not entertain, what I'm going to let go of, what I'm going to stop doing, to make sure that I stay really, really focused. So go for maybe 1 more minute. All right, how did we go? If you want to type into the comments box, I'll jump back over to the computer here. All right, how was that for y'all? Michelle, wow, that was food for my soul. Thank you. I love that. If anyone wants to share, or if there was any questions that come up. I know we're a few minutes over time here, so if anyone has to go, then great. I'll stick around for a bit, Paul, if there's anything that anybody has in terms of questions. Brian, great. I'm glad you love that, and yeah, I love being able to do that, and hopefully it's given each of you some more clarity, some more courage, and some more commitment as a result of what we've gone through here. I know for me personally, this is stuff that I continue to execute over and over and over again because it just works. It just works. And until something better comes along, I'm just going to continue doing that, right? Hey, Mark, thank you very much. And thanks, Michelle. I really appreciate that too. Awesome. Well, Paul.
Yeah, do we want to open it up? Anybody have any questions? They want to either come on microphone or pop into the chat. And let's see, I'm looking to see. Got a handful of people still here. I know Tom probably wants to hear another song before you leave, if that's possible.
I can jump back over in a minute, and I might even do the song Worthwhile, for those of you who are still tuned in.
I've got a question for you. This, when you were playing that song and I was sitting here taking notes and writing down things, it's amazing how easy those questions are, but how hard they are sometimes to get to a really meaningful answer. What do I want? What am I committed to? What am I willing to let go? They're not hard questions, but then in the moment when you're trying to really go deep, you sometimes feel like it requires being very open and honest with yourself.
It does.
And that's not always easy.
Yeah, part of this I see is having enough vulnerability within yourself to get it wrong to begin with. Wow. I know when I go to write a song, the moment I need it to go a certain way is the moment that I suck. I am really bad at it. But when I allow it to be flow through, which is for me to open up to possibility, to what is unknown, because the reality is that clarity comes from not knowing at first. And having the okayness with not knowing for a period of time and playing in that space of not knowing is what I've found is it's how, most of the songs, like 95 to 99% of the songs are done within an hour, like 1 hour, and it's done, the whole song, start to finish. And that I've learned has come from really opening up. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate. Yeah, clarity comes from not knowing it first. That's actually from one of my songs. Yep, clarity comes from not knowing it first. All in time, my friend. I appreciate that.
You mentioned you mentioned fear at the beginning of this, and I always tell my daughter that in life, the greatest things in life often come on the other side of fear. And actually,
Yes.
I've got a webinar called Action Over Analysis, and that's one of the things I have in one of the slides. Can you talk a little bit about this idea? Because I mean, what do you want? What are you committed to? What am I willing to let go? But often fear is a barrier, and we don't always recognize it as fear in the moment. We might recognize it as something else. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. The reality is, I mean, it's a great way to look at it, is that fear is on the other side of, usually on the other side of everything that you really dream of. Because the reality is that it's going to require something that you either haven't done before. It's going to require something that is going to need your vulnerability. Yeah, your potential of it not working out. One of the greatest exercises that I ever did was understand what the worst case scenario is, write it down, and then ask yourself, can I make peace with that? And what tends to happen, I did this exercise with a client just a couple weeks ago, really big challenges, like monumental challenges going on. And in his mind, his life was over. Business, career, all of that. When we wrote it down, he realized that, well, it's definitely not an ideal situation. There's no going around that. It's not the ideal situation. But I'm going to be okay. I'll get through this. And all of a sudden, when you've made peace with the worst case scenario, what is there to fear? And that, for me, when I went through that exercise I think it was about 8-9 years ago, it changed everything for me. All of a sudden, the baseline was now that I know I'm going to be okay versus, oh, but what if it doesn't work out? Yeah. Now, there's been different times where that's come up, and I then had to understand what the worst case scenario is again, because there's new levels of growth that we go through. But that's a huge one. The other is to ask yourself, is this fear warranted? Is this fear warranted? Because whether it's certain emotions that we have, we're feeling fear. Okay, why is that there? Is it warranted? Is there something that you haven't thought of? If we go back to prehistoric times, is there something we haven't thought of that could mean that we end up getting killed by a saber-toothed tiger today? Yes, there is. Oh, thank you, fear. Really appreciate your efforts. If fear wasn't there, we wouldn't be here. And so fear, you want to be utilizing it as a tool, as is every emotion that we have, to determine, are we on track or off track? If I'm feeling anxious, why is that? If I'm feeling depressed, why is that? Am I on track? Am I off track? Oh, I'm off track. Why is that? What are some things that I could do to get back on track? And all of a sudden, we're utilizing those pieces as tools, these emotions as tools. Same goes for fear. And if it's not warranted, then that's where, again, worst case scenario comes in. Also, getting to the core as to what you're actually fearing in the first place, and then working through that. Again, if you don't work through the core reasons why you fear it in the first place, and they'll usually go back, I don't care, like when I do a performance intensive with a client, they've been into their mid 70s, right down to early 30s, usually in that range. We almost always go back to childhood. Something happened back there that led me to fear a certain thing, to believe a certain thing, that then expanded out into business. I was taken advantage of, or somebody broke my trust when I was 4 years old. And then that led me to believe that I couldn't trust this community, to then I can't trust anybody eventually. It becomes a generalized term. The generalized term, I can't trust anyone. And I wonder why I really struggle to let go of certain tasks in the business when it comes to delegation. It's so far off from each other, and yet it is extraordinarily connected at the same time. Get to the core as to why it's happening in the first place. Take the steps to get over that, to work through that, and that's what becomes the long-term sustainable change rather than the short-lived transactional stuff that occurs. Hopefully that helps. anything else?
I just want to say, first of all, Cameron, thank you for being here. This was amazing today. You're an incredible talent, and we are very privileged to have you in with our community this morning. I am a situational awareness and crisis management expert, and I am always trying to tell people as I have clients, but I also just took I'm in the middle of a really huge transition. So I appreciate your earlier comments about my clarity, because I have no fear and no problem with commitment, but I always, try to have that focus. And when you make that big pivot, it's sometimes very difficult to get clarity. But one of the things that I always tell people is that our fears are never as big as we imagine them to be. We create these little scenarios in our head all the time about these worst case scenarios, and then we can't get away from it. So when we're saying, well, what's the worst can happen, we get fixated on those points. And so I follow that up with, our goals and our dreams are never too big for our capacity, particularly as you're just talking about maybe delegating things or outsourcing things. If you're not an expert, find one, because crisis management planning is all about, what are your resources, right? And what is your capacity for resilience? And so I really appreciate all of that in terms of, having the plan, having the ability to take the next step and understand that whatever the worst case scenario is, there's a better outcome out there, when you have a plan in place. Now I do have a saber-toothed tiger. Well, it's not a saber-toothed tiger, but a tiger getting bit by a tiger story that I can save for, another day. Sometimes
great story. Carolyn's got a great question in the chat there, Cameron. And I think it's really,
can you read that out for me so I can,
absolutely. And as she wrote this, I was thinking, man, sometimes as an entrepreneur or small business owner, we often lean into family, and family are the ones that derail us the most. But she had said, amazing. I'm curious how you acknowledge comments from well-meaning people close to you who are set in their perspective that is very toxic, shaming, and stuck in the past, and don't want to let go of their grip on you. I think that's a great question.
It is a great question. So without knowing your situation specifically, so we'll add this with a grain of salt, right? Take this with what I would say here is, first understand what outcome do you want to have happen here. One of those questions would be in terms of the outcome. Do I want a relationship with this person going forward? Now, in this case, it probably is the answer is a yes. Number two, what relationship is it that I want? A third question that I would probably ask personally is, what is it that I want to feel when it comes to the actions that I'm taking or where I'm going towards? Is that more important or less important than the relationship that I have right now, as in the current dynamic? The answer to that's probably going to be actually like what I'm doing is more important. Otherwise, the question wouldn't have come up. And so I want to do something about that. And so you've then got to be okay. Again, if we go like the worst case scenario is if you end up having a difficult conversation with this person, again, without knowing the specific scenario, have a difficult conversation. The worst case scenario could be that they never speak to you ever again. And so that's where, again, you've got to ask yourself, if I was true to myself, am I okay with that if the worst case scenario was to come to fruition? Because if you're not, then you're not going to have the difficult conversation. But it's going to continue being around in your mind going, oh, I wish they'd do this, I wish they'd do that. And you're going to feel not that empowered as a result of that. And so there, just again, a few questions to ask first up. Now, let's say you say, okay, I have made peace with the worst case scenario. I don't think it's going to happen because, it might be a bit dicey for a while. I know that's definitely happened with me, with certain people in my life. But there has been some people that are now no longer a part of my life. And so when you go to actually have the conversation, this is where boundaries come in. And so I'd say clarity first and foremost, and then understanding what boundaries am I going to set here. And again, without knowing the situation, a couple of examples could be, I appreciate your concern. I know that you're looking out for me. The way that you're speaking to me, though, is not okay. It's degrading. It makes me feel lower than and worse as a result of having a conversation with you. I really want to feel lit up when I come and speak with you. I want to have empowering and embrace those conversations. At the moment, I don't feel like I can do that. And so it feels like the relationship that we have isn't where I want it to be. Are you open to changing that? Are you open to having a conversation about how we could maybe build on our relationship, how we could make our relationship stronger? Those words, are you open, are great words to invite somebody in rather than just say, you have to be this, you have to do that. Now, there can come a time where it is simply, that is not okay. Do not say that to me ever again. And you're drawing out a hard line. And you could, explain repercussions if that, happens again. But ideally, again, here's what I'd say. What you want to look at is, where can I take responsibility for what's happened? And what I mean by that is, I'm not necessarily responsible for what they said, what came out of their mouth, but I've actually been a part of creating an environment that's made that okay. By me not speaking up, by me not holding a boundary in place, by me not sharing candidly how that makes me feel, that is my responsibility. And I've got a responsibility to shift that. If I want the relationship to be different, I've got to take my responsibility. I'm then going to ask myself those questions. Okay, what worked? What didn't? What am I going to do differently? What do I need help with? To then say, okay, I'm going to say it in this way. I'm going to test this one out. Now, what you also want to make sure is, when it comes to these relationships, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? What am I going to do about it? Let's repeat these over. What do I need help with? Now, if you need some help, part of that comes with what I shared here, but look at who else you might need some help from as well. Look at where externally I could get some assistance in some way, shape, or form. The other way that I have framed conversations before, when I'm going into it and I know there's probably going to be some craziness that's about to happen because maybe this conversation hasn't happened before. Hey, I'd really like to have a conversation. This is really difficult for me to share this because we've never really spoken about this before. And I'm probably going to stumble my way through this. I'm probably going to screw things completely up. Is it okay? Like, are we able to maybe create a space here where I could share in that way and it'd just be totally okay for me to mumble and bumble and mess my way through this? And what you've just done, anyone who loves you is going to go, of course, what's up? Now, anytime that they get defensive, you're able to come back and say, hey, I told you I was going to screw it up. This is an example of that. Like, are you okay still with creating a space for me to just stumble my way through this, or should we leave this for another time? Yeah. And so you've framed it up really nicely at the beginning to allow for a healthy conversation to occur and to create an environment where it's completely okay for you to screw things up. Because if it's the first time that you've done it, you're gonna screw it up. There's gonna be at least something that you go back after and go, I went a little bit too hard there, or I didn't go in hard enough, and they took it, took my word as not really serious, and all of a sudden you're gonna find yourself in a place where you bring yourself down rather than lift yourself up, which is coming back to the recognition of progress that we went through earlier in the framework, right? You want to recognize the progress that you've made, even if it was a complete shambles, right? You still had the conversation. That was the first step. You still made progress towards where it is that you're aiming to go. Cool? So there's a few answers there. Hopefully that helps your situation.
Cameron, that was amazing. Now, I know we've gone way over your time, and want to be respectful of that. But you have a song that I absolutely love, and I don't know if it's out of line to request that you play "Hold the Power." Is that something you'd be able to?
Oh, Hold the Power. I haven't played that for such a long time. I may mess that one up, which I think we're in an environment where it's totally okay to mess things up, right? What I might do, though, because I shared the lyrics of Worthwhile earlier, maybe I'll play that one for you.
Beautiful.
Which has the final 4 questions. So you hear them as we go through it. So let me do that one.
We'll close on that note, but I want to, before you play that, I just want to thank you. This has been amazing. I know that at the top of the hour, a lot of people had to drop off, but the personal chats I was getting and the comments, people have been blown away by this. So I expected nothing less, but you far exceeded my own expectations, which were high. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to come and share.
Your mic, we can't hear you.
Oh, one moment. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and share. These have, everything that I've shared here has genuinely been transformational for my own life, and then being able to pay it forward to the clients that I have privately and the events that I speak at, and virtually here as well. It's a real honor. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and let's do this song, huh?
Sounds great.
Dreaming of a time when he could fly. A little girl, making sure that teddy bear was a wonderful life. What have I become? And will it be all is that worthwhile? A young man trying to find his place in a foreign land. His hometown didn't ever quite understand. What have I become? Is it all I really love? What have I given up? And is that worthwhile? Is that worthwhile? A young girl dreaming of a better world. She broke down, witness to all this pain and suffering. Was that worthwhile?
Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Wonderful, Cameron. Thank you again for being on Boss Academy. This was a true gift for all of us. So thank you for blessing us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks, everyone, for the last year who tuned in right till the end. I appreciate that, and hope you have a great Friday and a great rest of your weekend as well.
Thank you. And we do have an on-demand platform. This will be available to all of our members, and we'll share it out with the guests and share it out through our community as well. But thanks again.
Really a
Cameron.
blessing. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you, Paul, for making this available to us all today. And hope you all have a blessed day.
Thank you.